Yo, what's going on, everybody? This is Patrick Miller, and you are listening to the Miller Time Podcast, where we are all about people of color redefining success. And this week, we're following up on a conversation with our good friend, Eugene Johnson, who is a CEO of a tech company in San Francisco. Eugene told us all about his life and how he went from stealing bikes off of people's porches and selling Pokemon cards to becoming the CEO of a tech company that has reached their $1 million mark. In this conversation, Eugene gives us the opportunity of exploring what is it like for a CEO to operate from a high level and achieving the goals that they set before them. But not only that, but even someone who is not a CEO yet or has reached a high level position, but just has an idea and wants to get started and haven't even begun yet, don't even know where to start. How can they begin to take those steps forward towards the success that they want?
The biggest problem, the mistake that those people end up making is they have this huge vision and they're so afraid to start because the gap between where they are and where they want to go is so big. And so what they need to do is learn how to turn those things, those big visions, into achievable milestones.
But we have to recognize that as people of color, and even us as black folk in America, it just seems like getting to success isn't the same as other people who have privileges. And we recognize that there may be some differences between a black person getting towards success or a white person.
The platform to get to success is exactly the same for a black and a white person. Where you start is the difference.
In this episode, we are going to talk about how defining success is more of an art form, while getting to success is a scientific, calculated approach.
What it takes to succeed, the path is not different. They might start at the 25-yard line or the 50-yard line, and you start from zero.
And that might all sound like bad news, but history shows that when people of color are put under pressure, we produce miraculous results.
See, the good thing about us is that don't show us that we could be great.
And with just one spark, we can begin to shift our dreams into reality. But all we need to do is see that it can be done.
And the seeing is not because I see it, I do it. It's because I shift mentally in my belief level internally, and that mindset shift now starts to get me to think in a different way as at the whole world.
Find out more on this week's episode of the Miller Time Podcast.
Here's what one of my mentors used to say all the time. If what you see is not what you saw, then what you see currently is temporary. You know, so meaning like if what you see with your eyes is not what you saw visually, then what you see currently is temporary. And so I look at that situation and say, all right, from a vision perspective, I know right now, if I do my job at least well, we won't be here long. And so the goal is just like, all right, do a good job and suck it up so that at some point I can start operating the thing that I feel like I'm better suited for. Like I can sell, but I don't, and I'm not saying that I'm the sales guy. Like I understand it. I know how to coach it. I know how to train it, but I don't really enjoy selling that much. But I do enjoy getting people to do high levels of work. And I think that to me, and my value add is the ability to lead leaders. And I'm not leading leaders in tens, right? Because your organization is pretty flat. You don't have managers on top of managers on top of managers, right? So in that situation, you're basically leading followers. And don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean like that's not a downplay to the team. It's just that they're not in positions to hire, recruit, train, lead, and focus on that. And so my thing is just saying, how do I keep the vision of where we're trying to go? And like we take these, you know, goals, and I have this thing called 51 amp, and that whole training, I think I sent that to you guys once. And that whole focus is like you figure out where you want to be 5 years from now from a visionary perspective. You figure out what you need to do this year. What are the few things that you can do this year that will get you closer to that 5-year vision? And then you track it back. What do I need to do over the next 6 months, the next 3 months, the next month, the next week? And I think that that's really where execution becomes the key. And so many people talk about content and you know, vision and all of these things that are key to success. Really, execution is what makes success. And people talk a lot. Here's what I'm about to do. Here's what I'm about to do. But like the reality is, until you do it, until you know how to actually execute on the vision, you never gonna be successful. And I think that so many people have this pie in the sky. They watch, you know, LinkedIn or YouTube or, you know, Instagram, and they just see what they see, and they think that if I just do a few different things here, or, you know, show this and show that, I'll be there. But the reality is, if you got a vision, you don't know how to execute, you ain't gonna get there.
Well, it's like, what if that's not like your strength? You don't have an executor strength. So if someone, and that's a little bit of me and Patrick. Patrick is the visionary and isn't as strong in executing. So if me and Patrick were not married, how would someone who's a big visionary execute?
So every once in a while, you have people who have the skill to do both, visionary and execution. It's very rare, you know, you see it in some of the greatest leaders have the ability to do both. When you don't have the ability to do both, if you ask me which one I would choose to be a visionary, because a visionary, even though an executor is the person that gets the job done, a visionary has the ability to move masses. And if you can't move masses, then you still can't get to where you need to go to. And it's very hard to hire a visionary. It's very easy to hire an executioner. And so if I had to pick one, I would be a visionary. Now, you know, the blessing of God that I feel like I have the ability to do both. But like still, from an executionary perspective, I'm probably in a 75% of what a person who is super detail oriented. So the one thing that I miss from an executionary perspective is I know how to get stuff done, but I'm not very detailed in the process of getting stuff done. So I get people around me who are detailed, and then I just know how to motivate and make sure that thing gets done. But I can't like pinpoint, and like I'm not like, I will miss a lot of things if I focus on it myself.
Yeah, so you're very aware of kind of where you are. So you know that you're a visionary, but you also know that you have some execution skills, but at the same time you know that your execution is lacking, and so you brace yourself with people who are going to step in and be like, all right, well, we can look at the details. We can see the details, and we can make sure that stuff is taken care of. And I think even like what you're saying, we were just like watching one of your videos, you were talking about this, is that a lot of times people will start off doing something without actually thinking about the strategy. And so just like the balance between being a visionary and being an executor is that the executor may do it, but they're not necessarily thinking about the strategy. So they're going to do it, and then now we got to go back and redo it, or we got to, maybe we should have did this differently, and now we got to shift a huge direction. I remember I told you guys earlier today, I didn't mention it on the podcast, but I told you guys earlier today that I got 2020's content, a lot of 2020's content laid out. So visionary would have said like, I got all this content, here's what I'm going to do, blah blah blah, and then like the execution in me is saying, okay, all right, let's sit down, let's plan this out, let's map it out. And then the visionary would be like, well, it's the beginning of January, I wanted to start in the beginning of January, and so let's just push. But the strategist in me says, okay, let's wait, because I know that if I do this, then I'll push early. I don't finish everything. If I don't finish everything, that means I got to come back mid-year or a quarter in and go back into it. So if I do that, am I really going to keep it up going? And you just know yourself enough. So I want to give a practical thing, because it's two really specific things that you need to do for your question of if I'm not a visionary or I'm not an executioner. The first thing is find the other person. So if you don't have it, either you do one or two things. Either you find that person or you become that person. And I'm not a big proponent of working on your strengths, working on your weaknesses. Like, I don't believe that. Like a lot of my belief is if you strong at something, just be strong at that and let somebody else do the weakness. But in
instance of, and I believe in duality as well, so I can say something is wrong and right at the same time.
For sure, there's complexity to it.
I don't believe in the like. There's only one way to do things, but in the reality of it, I think that like if from a visionary executional perspective, if you don't have the capacity to bring somebody alongside of you, you gotta learn that trait. For sure. If you're going to grow something large, like if you're trying to build like a small business, 5 people, like you probably don't have to be that big of a visionary to be able to pull that off. But if you want to grow something into the millions, into the tens of millions, like you got to be a pretty good visionary and you got to have executional skills. So I would start with, if you had to start somewhere, get a small vision and large execution. And then as you continue to grow, you either try to grow that vision so that you can grow the business, or you find somebody who's good at being a visionary. And I think that with today's culture of like, I got CEO on my Instagram handle, and so now I'm like, this makes me great. I think that the reality, I think the reality is that some people need to realize that they're not CEOs and be okay with being something else, or being the CTO or the director of sales or the director of marketing, like, and finding somebody who can take that specific role. Just understanding, like you talked about, just understanding where you sit, I think is super important to just being self-aware there.
That's hard when, let's just say it's the idea that you birthed and you want to be the top gun. Like, it's your idea. Like, I'm thinking of a lot of people that we work with that, they're trying to get things moving, like they're trying to gain traction. They have the idea, but they're not strong in an area to really help it grow. And even with us, like with Coco Plan My Life, we haven't reached our fullest potential because we've only been operating in our strengths, and there's other things that we don't have. So what does the individual who's 28 years old, working full time, trying to get this hustle going, really wants to be able to work for themselves? Like, is it?
And they're working that other job,
right? Yeah. And I mean, they're not married or they don't have kids or whatever. Like, what does it look like to go from I have this hustle? How does it grow if you don't have the strengths of a CEO?
Is this on? All right. I just want to make sure this is on before I answer this question. Honesty. People got to be honest with themselves. And I think that, like, it goes back to insecurity. People so insecure that they want to be the thing because that thing validates what they think that they're not inside. And so if they're honest with themselves, they say, I am not this. And here's the reality, and I'll help you kind of understand what the tech world looks like. So in the tech world, when you raise funds or anytime you take any person's money, it becomes no longer your business. Like, you really just a conduit of those who have invested in you. Sure. And so in the tech world, if you don't grow into a position, especially in the tech world where you tend to scale fast, because that's the way that world is structured, if you don't grow into the position, you no longer have the ability to keep that position. So what I used to tell all of my team members in the early days was I used to say, look, just because you hold the role of doing the thing that you do, and I never gave anybody any VP titles in the first 2 years of the company. Nobody was a VP, a director, or a manager of anything. And the reason why I did that, and I communicated to them, I said, look, I'm not giving you the title because I don't want you to think that if this scales, you will be this. I want you to know that you need to work on yourself so that when that time comes, you either step into that role or understand that role is not for you. And I always use that going back. I wouldn't have even given myself the CEO title if I didn't have to. Like, I can't walk into a VC's firm and say, well, first question is, who is the CEO? Right. I can't be like, we don't have one. Like, that doesn't flow well. But I was very clear with them to say that even me, if we get to a certain place of growth and I no longer can take the company to the next level, then I have to step down. Matter of fact, it's called a board and they will fire you. Right? And so understanding the capacity of being honest with yourself to say, what do I have to do to be ready for this? And what growth do I need to do personally? Or who do I need to get around me to help me with this vision, to make this vision a reality? Right. Even if it means I have to give this person a higher title than I have myself. Like, I really want people to stop buying into the thought that the title brings you value.
Right.
You know, it doesn't, like, you didn't get into what you're trying to do. You're not trying to do what you're trying to do because of the title. Like, think about what the end result is and say, this is what I'm trying to become. This is what I'm trying to do. Right. And you focus on that. Like, why are you focused on the title? Who cares? Who's the CEO, CTO, CMO? Just pay me. Right? Like, just let me achieve a vision. Let me impact the world. Let me do these. Let me help, starving children in Africa. Whatever the vision is, that's the value.
Right, definitely. I mean, what you're speaking to, I've been hearing this, and I've been having a conversation with even some of the organizations that I'm working with, is that what you tend to see happening is that someone is really good at their job, and because they're really good at their job, they get promoted. Yeah. And they may get promoted, and they may do really well at that job, and they do a really good job there, and they get promoted again. And what they've always been good at was doing their job, not being a leader. But now they're in this position as a leader, and no one's trained them on how to be a leader. Right. So now they're really good at the job, but they don't know how to lead. Yep. So all they can do is either criticize or attack or
Dude, I'm telling you, I would say that excuse me, I would say that 95% of the managers and directors in any corporate position is in that place. They have the skill, like at in tech, you'll have a person in sales. They can sell really well, and because they sell really well, they get a lot of attention. Because they get a lot of attention, then they say, we got a manager position. Oh, the guy with a lot of attention, he knows how to sell this. He could probably tell people how to do this. And then they put him in the management role. The problem is, people development is very different than execution.
Oh, sure.
And so most people jump into these roles not knowing how to actually help other people succeed, which is an entirely different job than actually doing the job yourself.
Right. Yeah.
And it's kind of sad to watch. I don't understand, how do you have leaders and not have leadership training? There's so many companies that I just don't understand. How could you say that you are serious about building a company? You take people within your business, put them in people management roles, and then don't teach them how to be people managers. Right. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, because the job shifts now. It's not your job to get the job done. It's your job to coach your team.
Yep.
So it's if you are good at doing that job, then a lot of times it's almost being comfortable with saying no to a promotion and be like, look, I'm really good at the job, but unless you're going to offer me the training to be able to step into this new position, then I'm going to stay where I am. But it's it's going back to what you're saying, knowing what your skills are, knowing what you're good at, and being comfortable to saying this may have been my business, this may have been my program, this may have been my department that I started from the ground up. And I'm okay with saying I'll let it go if I'm not good enough. It's I know a lot of people wouldn't be comfortable with that. Even for me, I know that would be a challenge. I can't take this on.
Dude, I would be immensely sad if we continue to grow this company and the board said, I don't think he can continue to be the CEO. Right. It would break me inside. Yeah. But the reality is, I would gladly step down because I have to be honest with the situation. And so I just, because if you stay there, you're not going to it's not going to be successful anyway. Right, yeah. So I just think that as long as people, it goes back to insecurity, man. People take these roles and they feel like they have to, because they feel like if they get this title, I'll feel better about myself. Sometimes people take the title with less money. Right. And it just doesn't make sense. I don't know how to do the role. I'm making less money. People looking at me funny because I don't know how to do the role well. Right. So now my reputation is being tarnished because I'm stepping into something I'm not good at. Yeah. Sometimes just be patient. So tell yourself, okay, I want to do this. I want to be good at this, but I know I don't have the skills right now. Right. So let me go build the skills. Let me go get a coach. Let me go get training. Let me go to fly across the country. When I had before I had this biggest launch of success, I spent over $100,000 in 12 months traveling the world, going to meet with people, going to learn from some of the best to get great at whatever.
We gotta tap on that. You telling me you spent over $100,000 on personal development?
Over $100,000 in 2017. Yeah, when I saw it on the taxes, I was surprised. I'll be honest. I was like, whoa, all right. I didn't realize it was that much. But yeah, I mean, you got to invest in yourself.
I think that's something
just,
that like I don't think a lot of people, especially like people who are coming from, and this is something we noticed that especially people who don't have like higher level or mid-level positions, who don't necessarily see themselves leading people, or maybe even they get to that position but they're coming from a lower level position, like an entry level position, they don't necessarily see that as something that I actually invest in. And I think people will spend $899 on a Beyonce ticket. People will spend
the newest phone,
$1,000 on the newest iPhone. People will like all this stuff, like they'll pay for the what's the shoes called? The I forget what they call.
I don't know.
The
you know them shoes.
Yeezys.
The Yeezys, what's the other ones? Balenciagas.
Oh, Balenciaga.
People will spend tons of money on some Balenciagas, thousands of dollars on some Balenciagas,
image stuff.
but they won't pay. They won't pay for like the personal development.
That's like having short-term gratification is easy, because when I pay this $1,000, everyone will see I got the new iPhone 10, or when I pay for this Balenciagas,
or if I buy this car right now, I look like I'm successful.
Insecurity,
right. It goes to the insecurity thing. So then, how does someone who is really trying to be about the grind and about success, how do you push insecurity aside when you're starting? Like when you start off with nothing, you are insecure. You're people gonna find out I'm an imposter. I don't got no money. Like, how do you move past
you
that?
can't. People won't find out you're an imposter if you don't pretend to be something you're not. Because you won't be an imposter at that point. Sure. See, people keep trying to make it look like there's something that they're not. Now, I understand where that culture came from, because like I would say 30 years ago, like that was heavy in the culture. You had to look like something you're not, because there were gatekeepers that only put the people who were something in front of the opportunities. And so now there is no gatekeepers, which is why being real is more, or the more popular thing is being authentic today than it was 25, 30 years ago. And so you don't even need to be an imposter. So many people say, let me teach you how to be successful when they haven't gotten to success. Why not just say, let me teach you what I'm learning on the way to success. Let me take you on my journey. Let me tell you about the lessons that I'm learning right now, because I sucked about this with this last week. Now I'm actually doing some good things. People are so afraid to be themselves and be honest. That's why it doesn't hurt me to say I'm not making what I was making before. I don't care. Like, okay, so what? Like, if I wanted to go and make $6 figures, $1 million a year, I could, but I'm chose to go down this path. So this is the path that takes personal sacrifice, financial sacrifice, all of these other things. I don't need to pretend like, only reason, honestly, if I could get rid of my cars and downsize, I probably would. I mean, I only got those things because I had the money at the time. So I'm okay with like with being honest with like, this is where I am, this is what needs to happen, because I know that if I do what I'm doing today, I'll get to where I am, where I want to be, and at that point in time, I'll get the recognition. But if you have to ask for recognition, you don't deserve it. And so many people try to keep asking, recognize me. Let me buy this so you can recognize me. Why? Why are you trying to get somebody who don't like you anyway?
Right.
Why are you trying to impress those people? Like, I was a big people pleaser when I was young. And I think that one of the things I had to learn was like, a guy by the name of Jeff Olson used to say, they did a study and they found out that most people never attend your funeral.
Wow.
And they said that if it rained, 50% of those people would duck out of the processions. And you saying like, man, you are doing all of this so that people could love you, and they won't even show up to your funeral.
Wow.
Like, at some point in time, you got to say to yourself, I can't live for them, man. God's called me to do something great and amazing, and I want to kind of tap into that. And so I'm going to do whatever I feel like God called me to do, irregardless of how you feel in the moment. And I think that so many people need to get that inside of them, and they'll walk away from being this imposter because they'll just be who they are.
Eugene, I'm curious because a lot of our listeners are either just getting off the ground or literally haven't even begun because they're so stuck in their head, or they don't have the resources available, they don't have the connection. So what would you tell someone who is like, okay, maybe I've been going about my business for like a year or so, I'm not seeing the expedited growth that I'm thinking that I would have had. Like, how do I get off the ground?
So I think that it's like, I think it's two, you just mentioned two different people. I think that those are two different answers. You know, so the first person is the one who is thinking about success, or thinking about the business and never actually doing it. Yeah, I think that this person really has to get really clear on what it is that their vision is, and just say like, all right, do I really want to do this? Am I saying I want to do this because it sounds good, or do I really want to do it? And if the answer is I really want to do it, I think that you got to get in the planning mode. You know, so many people, you know, spend more time planning their vacation than they do planning their life. And so, you know, what I would say is like, take a step back and say, all right, spend a weekend. Like, get away and say, all right, I'm going to figure out exactly what it is that I'm trying to accomplish. And then not only am I going to get this vision, but I'm going to get a plan. And I'm not going to get a plan just for this, you know, year, but I'm going to get a plan for this month, for this week. Yeah. And I'm going to get really good at accomplishing these small things. And I think that what people realize, the biggest problem, the mistake that those people end up making is they have this huge vision and they're so afraid to start because the gap between where they are and where they want to go is so big. And so what they need to do is learn how to turn those things, those big visions, into achievable milestones.
Chop it down
and break it down, get it make super chewable, and then just say, all right, this is what I'm going to do this month that's going to help me get to this specific place. And only focus on the 1 or 2 or 3 things that are super important for getting to this month's goal. I think that will get you off the ground. It will start the process. And what most people do in that scenario is they get very afraid of these small things not getting them there. And they have to stay just consistent and just say, you know what? I'm just going to do today what I said I was going to do. And one of the biggest keys in that scenario is when you fail, because you will, start tomorrow. It's like a diet. You go on a diet. What happens is most people on Friday, they go out and they end up going to a friend's party, and that party got a bunch of food, and they're like, you know what, I'm just gonna eat today. All right, I'll forget it. And then they're like, Friday, like Saturday comes, and they're like, they're supposed to be going out with their wife, and they're like, well, I messed up yesterday, so I'm gonna do it Saturday. And it's like, I'm always Saturday and Sunday already messed up, so Sunday I start back on Monday. I'll start right. And then Monday it becomes like this scenario of they just keep going down that path. And so I would say, like, the biggest thing for those people in that scenario is just start again the next day. Like, all right, I'm gonna mess up, and I know when I do mess up, I'm just like, I'm not going to let the next day go by without messing up.
It's almost like waking up every day. Today's the day where I'm starting and I'm going hard,
and I'm gonna do that thing for that month. Not the big goal, not the huge goal. I'm not even going. Once I plan it out, I'm going to look at it, but I'm not going to focus on it. I'm going to focus on what this month is. So that's for those who haven't really gotten off the ground. I think that would allow you to at least start the ball moving. And once you get gather momentum, then momentum will carry you the rest of the way. And then for those who are trying to scale up a little bit, so they've just started, maybe they've started selling they started making sales, maybe they made $2,000, $5,000, $10,000 in sales, and they're like, I'm starting to move down the direction, but I thought I was going to do 50,000 in sales, and I did 12,000, right? I think that for those people, I think that one is getting clarity on what it takes to actually get to that specific goal that you're trying to accomplish. Most people don't have enough clarity around the next step. So they've been doing so much that they just keep doing what they've been doing, and they say, well, why doesn't it change? Well, you're doing what you used to do, and you got what you used to get, so now you're going to get the same thing unless you make adjustments. And then also making sure your adjustments match your goals. So a lot of times people say, all right, I'm going to do this specific thing. And then, let's say they're selling cupcakes. I'm selling cupcakes, and then I'm like, oh, this year I'm going to do something different. I'm going to start a podcast about selling cupcakes. And then they look at the year and they say, well, I made 12,000 last year. I did a podcast this year and I made 14,000. Like, I was expecting to have a bigger year.
Right.
Well, what's happening is what you didn't align to your goal. You're measuring what you did, which was a podcast, to your goal, which is making more money, which doesn't always connect.
Right.
So if your goal was to get more engagement and get people to know about you, to potentially buy more cupcakes from you,
Right.
then that would have been a better goal to
Right.
align to the podcast than to
Right.
say, how much money did I make?
Right.
Because if you know how this game works, you gotta be consistent for a little while before it actually starts to
Right,
pick
for
up and
build
turn
traction.
into
Right.
something.
Yeah, yeah.
So most people just are not aligned to, and they don't have a good enough clarity around where it is that they're trying to go. So I would say for those people is like, I would honestly say, I think that if you figured out what it took to get to the next step, and whatever that next step for you, if you're making 10,000, you say, I want to make 20 or I want to make 35. Just don't say, I want to make 2 million.
Right. Yeah.
Like, I think that understanding everything is realistic. Like, I never believed in the idea of realistic, right? Like, it's unrealistic, for, light switch there for you to click it on and then light turns on. Like, everything that's been done in the world has been unrealistic.
It was unrealistic at some point, right?
Yeah.
So I don't believe in the unrealistic, but I think that you should be realistic about the work that you're going to do in order to achieve that unrealistic.
Right. Yeah.
So if you want to say my goal is to make $10 million this year, I believe you.
Yeah.
But let me show you what $10 million worth of work looks like, and then
Right.
tell me that you're going to do that.
Yeah.
If you are, then great. But if you're not, then like let's make a goal of 100,000.
Let's adjust.
Let's
Yeah,
adjust.
no, for sure.
So I think getting the clarity on what the next step is super important for those. And I also would say be patient. Like, you don't have to try to kill the world in 12 days, right? Like, most people overestimate what they can do in a year, underestimate what they can do in 10.
Right.
And so, when I stepped into my 30s, I didn't say, all right, from 30 to 31, it's going to be a great year. I'm going to kill it. I said, this decade is going to be a huge decade for me. And, when I look at, trying to accomplish, so I would just say, like, get clarity, and really kind of like allow yourself the time to get to where you need to get to.
Yeah.
And I think that the last thing I would say around that is really just be okay with where you are until you get to where you want to be. Like, it's okay to be at 10,000 a year if that's where you at, right?
Yeah.
It's okay for that. Just understand, like, all right, what do I need? It's really practical. Like, you sell, like, this is the good thing about business is like math, like, and success is kind of like that. Success is not art, right?
Yeah.
Art is subject to opinion. You look at this nice painting on a wall and you say that this looks beautiful. Somebody else comes in and says this is terrible. Right? That's art. Sure. Art,
Right.
people make adjustments based off of who they are. Success is not art. Success is science. It's 1 + 1 = 2. This formula plus this formula equals this formula. Blue and yellow equals this color. Like, that's what success is. And I think so many people who are trying to get the ball moving, they forget that, like, you already know what to do to be successful. If you can make $1, you can make 2. If you can make 10, you can make 20. Just do exactly what you did to make 10 twice.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, with success being a science, so with the podcast, we're all about redefining success as POC. What does success being a science? Because it's like a different grind. If you're white, you have a little bit more privileges and things that are handed to you.
You may have $1, but
You may have-
I got 65 cents.
Yeah. So what does it look like for a POC to say, okay, if success is a science, but we're not walking in an equal playing field, what does that look like for me when I'm trying to get into this formula that seems to be easy for any white man to walk into, but I'm a black man and things aren't opening up like that for me?
So here's the scenario, and people might not agree with this, but it is what it is. The platform to get to success is exactly the same for a black and a white person. Where you start is the difference. So this whole concept of white privilege, and some people will admit that it's there and other people will say that it's no such thing. But the reality is that there is some privilege in being a certain type of person, right? Right. And so what it takes to succeed is not, the path is not different. You just they might start at the 25-yard line or the 50-yard line, and you start from zero or sometimes negative. And now you just have, the problem with starting at negative is that there's a treacherous road between 0 and 50. There are a lot of things that they don't have to do it. Like, here's a scenario. Whether you black or white, in order to get to success, there is a bunch of crap that you have to go through. Yeah. There's ups, there's downs, there's jaggeds, there's mountains, there's valleys, all of that stuff. The thing is that their ancestors already did it. Right. So they already ahead of, they walk in and they say, I got $1 million, or I got a business that my dad's already started that's got a $5 million business and I get the chance to take it over. Or, they've already owned a home. So maybe I can pull equity out of a home and get $25,000, $30,000 and start this business that ends up being successful. So they already have gone through a lot of the problems that, and don't get me wrong, not all white people have, but the majority of them have from a financial perspective, and if you have it from a financial perspective, at least you have from a social perspective. Right. So you get the opportunities to get into the schools, you get the benefit of the doubt when it comes to jobs, all of these specific things. So for us, we basically don't have that back end history. Right. And so we just have to catch up to where they are so that our future generations can start at a further path. To be honest, Martin Luther King created a process for us to start at a further path than we did when he started. Right. Now, we just maybe not at the 50-yard line, but we ain't at 0 anymore. Right. So
we're working our way up.
Exactly. And so now, especially with hip hop and things of that nature, like a lot of these guys have started to change the dynamics of what people of color can achieve. And then you have President Obama, and you've got people who are stepping in. One of my goals is to be able to be that for tech. And you got people who've stepped in and kind of shown that it's possible. And the more you do that, the good thing about us is that don't show us that we could be great. Sports was a predominantly white person scenario. People of color, you show people of color we could be great, and we go and dominate that. We'll go. We're in there now, and sure. I think that's really what it's going to take for us to kind of move the needle forward. So I don't think it's
seeing
different.
Someone.
Representation matters.
Representation is being able to see someone in that position and know. Man, like, because what you're saying is like, it goes back to spark. It's like, if I don't believe that me as a person of color can be successful in that field, then I'm not going to do it. It's just like Henry Ford said, if I believe I can, then I'm right. If I believe I can, then I'm right. And so, like, if I don't see someone there, then I'm like, I can't do that. And I'm not going to lie, when I saw Black Panther, I don't know why, but it is something in me shifted when I was able to see a black hero in an all-black movie in this black country. I felt like I could be a hero. I don't know what it is. This cat is fiction.
What kind
it's
of
Miller Man?
Like, it's like I saw it and something about me felt like I had never seen anything like this. Yeah. Oh wow. Like there's I don't know what I can do, but I know I feel like I could do more now. But what you're saying is like that when people of color are able to see that, like, yo, like there's one person who opened up that door and got in there. Yeah. He left that door open.
Jackie Robinson.
No, I'm saying like maybe, but I'm saying what I'm saying is like all we need is one person to get in there and open the door up, and next thing you know, we all in there.
And you know why? It's not the one person that makes the difference. It's the one person that shifts the mind. And I think that the mentality is like, I can't remember what it's called. I think it's called like the manifesto of something or something like. But the whole scenario of the way to get slaves to stay slaves is to make them think they're slaves. And I think that the more you start to see that you don't have to be a slave, the more you start to believe that I can actually do that thing. And the seeing is not because I see it, I do it. It's because I shift mentally in my belief level internally, and that mindset shift now starts to get me to think in a different way as at the whole world. This is why if you get a person who's been traditionally disenfranchised.
Yeah.
Or you get a person from a third world country. When they see poor or poverty, that's normal to them.
Yeah.
The only time it's not normal is it when they see success.
Right.
So you take a person out of a third world country and you stick them in America, and what they thought was poor, and in my neighborhood was like, oh, we hood, we poor,
right.
But like when I remember when I moved out here to California, they say one of the first things was like, yo, take me to the hood. Like, I want to see what the hood look like. And they took me to Oakland. I was like, wait, all these people got houses and cars. I'm from New York. We live on top of each other in buildings and take subways. Like I didn't like. There was a level, and I'm sure that a third world country person would be like the same thing. Like, dude, like this is this poverty?
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that when you start shifting people out to see something different and open up their mind frame to see that there's other possibilities, it creates the spark internally for you to say, oh, not only is that possible, but a lot of other things are possible. And it gets people to start thinking. It's one of the reasons why I really like hip hop. Some of the I'm not a big fan of hip hop. I don't listen to hip hop at all, but not much. But I do see that there are some people who are going more conscious and making people think more. And I think that a lot of that is super important because the hip hop culture is what dominates white culture. Color people of color.
You go
culture.
to any concert, you gonna see mostly white people there.
I mean, that's the reality. So I think that as if we start speaking truth, people will start hearing it and they'll start seeing. And I think a lot of what for us as people of color, the internet has changed the game for us. Because when I was in the hood, I didn't know what Oklahoma looked like. I didn't know what anything. I was from New York City.
Sure.
I ain't never been outside of New York City.
That's
I never
you
seen
said
pictures.
You knew that Pokemon card had that like certain thing on. I was like, he didn't Google that.
There's no Google for this. It was just a recognition. But like the reality is, I didn't see the world outside of my block. And today, you could be on your block and you see the world. So it's so hard for you to stay on your block when you see when you get a chance to see everything outside, it just becomes hard to stay in your box. And I think that's really what sparks it out.
Yeah, man.
I mean, that really speaks to so many themes that came up even in your story that like, one, being raised in the hood and being used to a certain mindset of what does it mean to have success or what does it mean to get ahead. And also with 18 being such a crucial shift where you literally had to change your whole environment and change the crowd you were surrounding yourself around. Because maybe, let's just say if you never made the move to California and you would have stayed in New York, maybe the trajectory, maybe there would have been a slight
Total
change,
difference.
but I see more of a decrease happening as well because you're in the same environment trying to make these changes and you weren't exposed to what else was outside of your environment. And so with you going to that conference and seeing, what was his name? Daryl?
Oh, Darnell South.
Darnell, yes. That exposure was life-changing because if you being a black man and only seeing representation and only having certain mindsets repeated to you over and over again about what does the narrative look like for a black man in New York, okay, I'm dead by 21, and you saw a complete different narrative, that expanded possibility, that expanded a mindset where success is going to actually be possible. Like the success that I knew had a cap on it, and now the cap came off. And so with you just saying that about like the importance of the mindset shift that yes, representation is important. It's important for us to see black men that are in CEO positions, but it's not just enough to see it, but it's enough for us to realize like, okay, so with seeing this and the mindset that I'm having or the mindset that I see that they have, how do I shift my mindset to get to this place? Like my question is, how do you make the shift? Let's just say with access to internet, you had possibility to look up everything, but still, if your circle is very much like, okay, yeah, we gonna eat out every night. I come home and watch Game of Thrones. Like, you're so stuck in a cycle of what is comfortable and what is familiar, and it's not until like let's just say you have a chance encounter with somebody, but like, do we just wait on chance encounters of things just aligning, or how do we get access to having a mindset shift, a spark moment?
Yeah, if you wait for chance, you ain't never gonna get there. I mean, the reality is like a good idea rarely hits you in the dark, right? Like the you've got to go searching. And this is why I like the Bible: ask, seek, and knock. Right?
Yeah.
Like you got to go searching for the shift that you're looking for in your life. And I think that because of the internet, it makes so many things available to you. If you want to lose weight, go to Google, go to YouTube. It'll teach you, right? If you want to make more money or save money, or you want to start a new business or start a podcast, or if you want to do cryptocurrency, I mean, literally you can pick anything and go learn it. Go pick up a book. If you want to understand mindset, shameless plug, the Mental Playbook, like go to Amazon, pick it up, right? I mean, in that book I talk a lot about the practical, like this is a little bit more of a high level conversation, but in that book I do a lot of frameworks on the practical, like, all right, how do I break habits? How do I how do I make this mental shift to get to success? And I think that like there are places of content that will give you that value, but you just gotta ask, seek, and knock. And I think most people don't do that.
Some of the things that I've been hearing from you is just like where you started from and to where you're going now has always been about just like continually making this shift. And first it was by accident, and then it was intentional, and then it was even more intentional. And like in order for you to continue to move into success, you've been able to like just continually make that shift and being able to spark your own mindset and say like, all right, what do I need to be, or where do I need to be so that I can be successful? And that if I can no longer move forward, then I need to set myself up with a brace who's going to surround me and say like, all right, they're either going to help me take me forward, or they're going to be like, you're out of there. Like, and so it's like continuing being in a mindset where you're setting yourself up for success. It's like it's like reinforcing. It's almost like reinforcing that like, we're going to be successful. I've invested in this business. I've invested in my success, and that even if I get to a place where I become a liability to my business, I've said and I've invested in relationships that are going to like continue to push us forward.
It's not a straight line,
right? But it's like, even with your mindset, and I know you've given us a sneak peek of some things that we could be expecting from you, but it's like you're always, I know you're a chess player, and
you'll have to get a game one day.
we know that strategy is in chess, and it's not just thinking one move ahead, it's thinking 12 moves ahead, and being able to like, one, how you have a mindset that's so strategic to think about like 10 years. This is my decade. Like some people can't even think about tomorrow. Like, am I promised tomorrow? What do I do next month? Like, I don't even know what my next job, like there's such a skill in being able to think 10 steps ahead. And like, even with the things that you have planned coming up, I would love if our listeners can know what to expect, because I know we didn't get too much into E Squared, but Eugene has a YouTube channel, and also you can catch him on social media on his Zyral account, and also his tag on his personal page, Eugene Johnson.
Eugene K. Johnson.
That you're always launching the next thing, and you're keeping up with trends. You're keeping up with where is the market moving.
You're about to be on TikTok.
Yeah. So like, what can we expect, and how do you get into that mindset of thinking 10 steps ahead?
I think this chess really helped me with that thinking ahead and being strategic. I've lost enough and made enough mistakes that because I didn't think about what would happen if I took this action, what would what's the ripples behind that? And so through those mistakes, you gotta at some point in time learn and say, all right, how do I not make these mistakes? Well, I should have thought about this impact ahead of time before I started this specific thing. And so that the mistakes plus, playing chess really kind of opened my eyes to say, all right, if I make this move, what impact does it have on this move, that move, and the next move, with the end goal in mind to capture the king, right? So I think that those two things helped me kind of think around that for the next decade. But I would say, as far as like what we plan on putting out, I do want to put out a ton of content. Like I believe heavily in like just putting out as much content as humanly possible. I am a walking enigma because I don't do everything that I know just because my schedule is so hectic that it becomes very hard for me to stick to that thing. And right now when we hire people, I gotta hire people for the benefit of growing the business. And that we're not necessarily in a place yet, though towards the second half of 2020 I'm going to be doing heavy PR for the business itself. We're probably going to change the name. It's going to be like we're going to do a lot of promotions and social and all of that stuff. But I know for 2020 I'm about to release a ton of content, so I'm going to be putting out micro content. I'm going to do I have this thing called the 4Ds of Destiny that I recorded maybe 2 years ago. And it's like a 5-hour training on basically how to get to purpose, basically. And I talk about the specifics, what you encounter on the road to destiny, things of that nature. So I took that audio program and I broke up some of the best parts and I turned it into like bite-sized audio versions of it. So I took out small pieces and used the wave file, wave.co, and turned it into audio pieces. So I want to be pushing that out. I'm going to do a relaunch of my book. Probably I'm going to do a redesign and a rewrite and add some things that I want to add onto it. I'll probably do that towards the end of the year. I got a podcast coming. The podcast is going to be called Influence with Eugene. And we're going to be bringing on people that we talk to, from people in tech, entrepreneurs, CEOs. We're going to talk to, top leaders in business, a bunch of different types of people. So we'll be doing that in 2020. So it'll be a fun 2020 from a content perspective. And I really want to kind of get back involved in like, I was before Zyra, I was heavily doing content and creating content, and then after Zyra, I just got so focused on building the business that I didn't have an opportunity to do that, and I didn't have the team structure to be able to put that in place. So now I don't have the team structure, but I'm not going to use that as an excuse. I'm going to get it done. So I got a lot of content coming out. It'll be fun. We'll see what happens.
Super exciting. So you said the podcast is Influence.
When should people expect it?
Yeah, Influence. It'll be out in March.
Yeah. Okay.
Love it. All right, cool. I'm excited about that. All right, so if I can just wrap us up on like everything we talked about a lot and we dug in. But I think some of the things that we've been talking about on our podcast and a lot of our listeners been asking us questions about. By the way, we got listeners in Dominican Republic, Australia,
Poland.
Sweden,
worldwide.
Yeah,
we reached the Philippines.
Nice.
We got a lot of people in Illinois.
Yeah, whoever's in Illinois, we love you.
I love y'all. Y'all supporting. So yeah, everybody all over the world is now hearing about Eugene and what he's got going on. But a lot of the things that we've been talking about is around brace, spark, purpose, flow. Surrounding yourself around the right community is going to support you. Making sure that you're able to spark and be able to like shift into empowering beliefs that are going to help you be able to be successful. Identifying your purpose, not only how it impacts you, but those around you, but also being able to tap into your flow, your strength, and know how to work in a way that's going to help you be successful, and not so much focusing on the weaknesses, but really using those strengths to help you be successful.
Right.
And we've been talking about that even today, just like everything I've been hearing, you've been talking about that, whether it be the people you surround yourself around, whether it be mentality you've had to take on, whether it be understanding your purpose and setting goals and knowing exactly what you're trying to achieve and breaking those down so that they're bite sizes to be able to go after, or even like tapping into your strengths and being aware of your strength and surrounding yourself with people that are going to help you if you don't have that skill. So just to what we usually do with our audience is that we want to make sure that we leave them with some practical things. And I think one of the things we definitely been talking about is spark. And you've already given a lot of practical tools, but we want to continue to add value to our listeners. What's something that if you could leave our listeners with something that they could take away, and then you would say, hey, here is a practical tip on how you can spark, whether it be to disengage from limiting beliefs, or whether it be to reinforce or to find new empowering beliefs to help you to be successful. What would be some a practical tip that you would give our listeners?
I would say it's a mix of things. Read 10 pages of a good book every day. If you read 10 pages of a good book a day, most books are 300 pages. You'll get through a book in a month.
Wow.
That's
So
good.
10 pages of a good book a day. Listen to audio on your drive to work. So if you drive, the average person drives like 25, 30 minutes one way, 25, 30 minutes back. If you listen to a podcast like this, some type of audio, anything like that can kind of feed your mind.
Yeah.
They say that you can get a university degree in a 2-year time frame if you listen to one subject every single day on your ride in your transport.
Y'all listening to that podcast, listeners, on your way to work, you can get you a university degree if you start listening to the podcast.
Wait, Eugene, did you go to college? I know you said you went, but did
I
you
did
graduate?
go to college. No, I dropped out twice. So I'm so good. I dropped out twice, bro.
I mean,
The reason why I'm snapping is because we were talking about this last week. We were talking about how you can find all these like white males who dropped out of college and been successful.
Yeah.
But like, where the black men at?
Yeah.
No. Unless they in sports or music, you don't really see that.
I think it's important for our listeners to even know that, like, a couple weeks ago we were talking about, do you need a degree to be successful and to climb up the ladder, especially as a POC? And people say, like, well, doors won't be open to you if they don't see those letters behind your name.
I
But
don't believe that.
yeah, we see it from you.
Okay. Cool. So yeah, all right. So you said read books.
Read 10 pages of a good book a day. Listen to 15 minutes of a good audio day at least. Go to a conference once every quarter if you can, something local or regional. Like if you can go, like, you know, somebody's gonna come in this town like once a quarter, just like go. It'd be like a day, a Saturday or something like that, or a marriage conference or whatever. And then once a year, go to a getaway, a weekend retreat type of conference. If you do that every single year, like, you'll grow mentally. You'll start to think in a different way, and I think it will shift the way you think. And what it really will do is start to get you to believe in yourself. And I think that a lot of what the shift is stop believing in what other people see you as and start believing in what you see yourself as.
Wow.
And one of the things I used to say all of the time in my old shows, the mental asset, is I talk about the fact that, like, let no man steal your vision because no man gave it to you. And I think that that's really the mentality that you gotta have, is you gotta have a vision and you can't care what anybody says or does, and make it happen.
Yeah.
I love that.
Wow.
I feel it's hard when you are on the grind so much and you're just like, I don't have space to do anything else, listen to anything else, talk to anybody else. But it's like, I like the underwear analogy thing. Like,
Also, I don't believe that. Nobody has the space, but yet they caught up on all of the Netflix series.
That's true.
They got all of the time on social media, but somehow you don't got an hour to invest in yourself. I don't believe it.
No, it's true. You invest in what you want to invest in.
Yeah. A lot of the content that we consume, I mean, it tires you. It burns you out. But imagine if you start replacing that content that you consume with things that actually challenge you and grow you instead of...
One quick thing. There's two types of content. There's 2 E's in content. It's
Okay.
either going to educate you or entertain you. So many people are grabbing content for entertainment purposes and not education.
Yeah,
Self-education will make you, formal education will make you a living.
Right.
Self-education will make you a fortune.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's like a huge thing, because I think a lot of times when we think about education, we think about going to school, we think about getting a degree, but like that's only 4 years of your life. And so if you say, oh, I'm educated because 4 years of my life I like sat in a room
No
and
more
read a
education
book,
for me.
and then like after that I'm educated, then like you're like, no, you indoctrinated.
That's true.
like you're missing the an entire portion of your life where you should be educating yourself continually.
Yep.
Yeah.
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 I mean, we can go so many places with that.
For sure.
I'm gonna just stop right there.
Yeah. Eugene, we thank you for coming.
Yeah, he is such a busy man. It's hard to get a hold of his
Seriously,
schedule.
we have the schedule. It's like 2 months.
2 months in advance.
Trying to get on the calendar. But you can definitely catch Eugene blowing up on his Instagram, Zyro, or you can check him out at Eugene K. Johnson.
Yep.
And look out for the podcast that's coming,
Influence.
and the books, and the TikTok, and all of it.
Yes,
He's definitely going to be out there. I definitely know some people for sure who I know could use some Zyro help. So
Nice.
I'm going to let you know about them.
Yeah.
We definitely appreciate you being here and
Thanks for
spreading
having
your
me.
wisdom. Our goal in life is to be able to help people create an extraordinary life, but we definitely believe that as people of color, we have to redefine it for ourselves. 'Cause
Absolutely.
sometimes the dominating narrative of society says this is what success looks like. This is how you have to do it. This is you got to show it in this way or flaunt it in this way. But we appreciate you just coming in and being able to
real.
share and be real. And I know, if you're not working, you got to be spending time with your family. So we appreciate your wife.
Yeah.
for allowing us.
Thank you, JoJo and Nathaniel.
We appreciate you for sharing your husband with us. And Zyro, we appreciate y'all for sharing your leader. So, yeah.
Awesome. All
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, definitely. Any other thoughts you want to share?
No, I mean nothing specific. My hope is that you guys I really appreciate what you guys are doing, because the reality is, as a person of color, and as a black man, especially in America, it's difficult for us to see and believe that the possible is possible. And this whole concept of living an extraordinary life, you don't have to stay where you are.
Yeah.
And I just love that you guys are embodying that, not just as individuals, but as a married couple, as an example for those who are, people of color and are married, and they want we there's a lot of us out there. We need to find ways to connect us so that we can, show the world that we do have some power, we do have some insights, and we can create success. So I just appreciate you guys for doing what you're doing here. It's amazing. I'm excited to see 24 months from now, what it looks like and the type of people you have coming through here. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
You were the beginning with us. You were there from the beginning.
We appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. All right, y'all. Well, happy Monday. We hope y'all can get it done today and take it and start to apply some of these tips. So as soon as you get done with this podcast, pop in another one. Start listening, start learning, get that degree. So what we usually do, the way we end this, we kind of have a saying that we like to say to all of our listeners. We believe in reinforcing those empowering beliefs. And since you're hearing our guests, we're going to have you say it.
Okay.
Because one of the things is that we're all about is helping people create an extraordinary life. And so if you believe you have the power to create an extraordinary life, then you will create an extraordinary life.
Right.
We believe that you have the power to create your extraordinary life.
Oh, it sounds so good when he said it.
Sounds so good.
It sounded successful.
All right, y'all.
Peace.
See you later.